And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Welcome to another reasonably fine art talk with your friend, Charlie Hunter. Now, I know I just announced that I was doing it this week. I was going to pre-record this. I was going to do everything right, but you know how it is, ladies and gentlemen. You know how it is when it's tax season. You sit down to work on taxes, and all of a sudden it is 6 hours later, and with the cat helping, it just it's a display of efficiency. Anyway, first thing I wanted to mention was workshops. You see the ticker going there? That's a feature I can set up now and again, is this ticker. So visit hunter-studio.com/workshops, because I know there are a couple of spaces remaining, 2 or 3 spaces remaining in Scottsdale, Arizona later this month. And then I'm teaching 3 or 4 workshops in Vermont later this year. So I think the Lafayette, Louisiana, the Baton Rouge, Louisiana workshop is full. But I'm not sure, but I believe so. Anyway, Charbonneau, who's been helping me with the taxes, is over there clawing the heck out of the office chair. Anyway, I'm going to get rid of the ticker now because it's distracting to have it running constantly. But anyway, there is space in Scottsdale, and you should all, if you haven't signed up yet, sign up. What I wanted to do today was to talk about a couple of pieces that I am working on in the studio, and they're very much in process. And they may turn out to be staggering works of heartbreaking genius, and they may not. And that's part of what I like. One of the things I like about the artistic process, it isn't quite my flavor to design something in Photoshop and then translate it to canvas. That, to me, it feels more like copying. What I am really interested in is exploring. Now, some of the things that I choose to explore may or may not be that challenging, but they are still an exploration, and I really don't know what the finished piece is going to look like. Let's dive into that with a couple of examples. There is a Facebook group called Traces of Texas that I quite enjoy, and it's old photos from Texas history. This photo of a cowboy in probably the 40s or 50s, I thought is striking. And I do an annual art show out in Cody, Wyoming, called the Buffalo Bill Art Show and Sale. And I'm always looking for compelling images for that. And this one struck a chord in me. Part of the wonderful thing of doing art is when the news is horrible, we all know we can just disappear into painting. It doesn't necessarily make me the most creative person when I'm feeling fraught about the news, but I still need to be doing art. So what I thought I would do is, for this image, I wanted to explore if I use the painting process of the great illustrator Bernie Fuchs. And so what I did was I took this image, I projected it onto a 24 by 24 inch canvas. And then I did an underpainting of yellow ochre and either transparent oxide red or burnt sienna. I think it was yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Very, very thin slathering on of paint, and then pulling off with the cat is trying to get out the cat door, and the cat door apparently is closed. So Charbonneau, why don't you come over here? So if I'm distracted and if you hear rattling, it is the cat. Anyway, the process you draw out, you trace the image with the pencil, and then you do this very thin slathering of paint and then remove with paper towel and Q-tip. I was really happy with this stage of the painting. It has a nice dreaminess to it, but unfortunately, the camera lies. Up close, look at where the arrow is pointing. See, you can see the pencil lines very, very clearly. And one of the challenges, of course, of tracing is that it's binary. It's saying here is the dividing line between light and dark. And that's not how the world works. And it's certainly not how this style of painting works. So while this looked beautiful in a photograph here, up close, it looks too raw. So what to do? I threw paint at it. I did a second pass with burnt sienna, which is a bit more opaque than transparent oxide red, and did more pulling out. And then once it was dry and set up, I spattered it with a very watery Van Dyke brown to give it kind of that distressed old postcard look, which I like. And now the cat is helping. You probably see a lot of Charbonneau. Charbonneau needs a new cat, ladies and gentlemen. He just doesn't know that he needs a cat because he's bored during the winter and he's around all the time and he's knocking things over and he's being a bit of a pest, and he never used to be a pest. And I think having a cat would be helpful for him. Anyway, this is where it is now. Yesterday, I took asphaltum, which is a beautiful, transparent, brownish yellow, very rich, very honey colored. And I mixed that in with Cobra water mixable solvent-free gel. So, I mean, if you're using conventional oils, you would use, Gamblin solvent-free gel. This is just one that cleans up with water. And so another coat of paint. Now it's starting to get the texture that I'm really happy with. It's not all the way there yet, but look down at the guy's knee and the shadow area to the right of that knee. I really like how dark that is. And I use the Rosemary Badger blender I'll put the coat of the paint on, and then I'll feather it with that Badger blender. And it's starting to really have the richness that I am looking forward to. So that's where it stands right now. I can't work on it today because it's not dry. So you got to have, at least for me, I got to have a couple of pieces going at any one time or another. Let's see what the comments are saying. Lauren's saying, so nice, thank you. L Kid says, you are his other cat. I know, I don't want to be his other cat. But hi, everybody. It's great that you're here. I'm going to make my head go away in a minute once we move to the next slide. And now let me make my head go away. There we go. So this is the other piece that I have on the easel right now. This is 36 inches by 72 inches. That is 3 feet by 6 feet. Really fun to work this size. As my friend Eric Aho says, always paint big. It doesn't take any longer and you can charge so much more. But he was kidding. It does take longer. Anyway, I was working on this in 2023 and stopped. And this is where I first started feeling stymied by it. This is from an old photograph by a guy named William Barringer? Anyway, Barringer, he was a railroad executive and he took thousands of photographs from the rear of trains across America during the 40s and 50s. And I just loved the feel of this, the big, the big late day sun slamming down into the horizon, the train, pulling away from this little tiny place a refueling stop. That's a coal tower in the background and a water tower over on the right. So this is a pretty literal, again, this would be a projected image. So I'm working from a photograph and I'm using a projector to get my proportions right. This is pretty truthful. It was black and white, but it's pretty truthful. What I was not happy about, however, are numbers 1 and numbers 2. Numbers 1 and 2 are utility poles. Number 1 it isn't dominant enough. Number 2 is slightly more powerful than number 1. And number 2 is in the wrong place. It's a distraction. Everything, the viewer is over on the right-hand side, right? Because that's where the darkest area is. It's where that pole could be very useful as a stitch into the sky. But the pole over on the left is so distracting. So the first thing I did, and unfortunately I did not get a photograph of this, but the first thing I did in, I think, 2024 was I painted in a mountain behind the area over on the left, which I liked. I liked how it kind of focuses the viewer into what becomes more of a valley. However, that number 2 pole was still a problem. So this month, as I started working on this painting again, I painted out the pole. I'm going to flip back again for a second. There's the pole. We're looking at pole number 2 right now. There's the pole. There's the pole started to be painted out. I was amazed how well I was able to make the pole go away up in the sky, because I don't use white or I had not used white in this painting to date. The white would cut down on the luminosity, but I had to use white to paint over this dried paint of that pole. Now, pole number 1 has 2 arrows now. That is because, and I'll flip back again, pole 1 used to terminate right there. I extended pole 1 up in the sky and I darkened it because I want that pole to be the dominant pole. So the sky over on the left-hand side is working pretty well painted out. I'm not unhappy. I think I can feather things to make it go away even more. But I'm having a real problem with the pole down in the hill that I had painted in earlier. That's because the hill was all translucent colors, and in order to paint the pole out, I've got to go into using opaques. What to do? That's where I got to. And it's not bad. It's not bad, but the pole is still kind of there. That pole over on the left is still kind of there. And I don't think I can finesse it more. Fortunately, I've got 3 wonderful pairs of eyes that I can go to. One is my beloved Betty Sue, but she's very busy touring, and just her music is taking off really well. My friend Kristen, she was off skiing, so I couldn't ask her. So I called up my friend David Putnam. David Putnam is my framer over in Claremont, New Hampshire. I said, David, what should I do? David is a very good art critic. David said, and the thing I proposed to David was I could do this, and I cropped the painting over there on the left. That's one of the things Eric Aho didn't mention that's very good about painting large is you can crop it and still have a cohesive painting. This would be 36 high by about 60, 72, 62, 60. Yeah. So taking off about a foot on the left. And so I showed that to David, and David was, well, the problem of that is that you lose the sense of dynamic of the of the vastness of the sky. Why don't you crop it like this? And I think that's what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen. You see, cropped now, it's about 30 inches tall. So it's taking about 6 inches off the top and a foot off the left. And I think that preserves the kind of vast expanse that I really want this song to be about. It really gives the sense of dynamic power of that pole over on the right, extending off the picture plane. And I think I'm going to do a few more glazes, and then I think we are going to pretty much be there. We'll see. I go away in next end of next week, and I would like to have these two pieces done before I do go away. Now, D'Artagnan says, yes, that last crop is the one. So if that pole goes off screen, it's so much fun thinking this stuff out, ladies and gentlemen. It's so much fun. And if you've got processes that you're working on, put them up on Facebook in the comments about this reasonably fine art talk, and let's look at challenges that you've got, because I mean we might as well be a community, because these days community is important, and remembering that we are all humans with our hopes and dreams is an important thing to not lose track of. Anyway, so if I get these done by next week, that's what next week's Reasonably Fine Art Talk will be about. If I don't get them done, I don't know what next week's will be about. But just wanted to check in with you all. Keep painting. Keep making beauty in this imperfect world. It's wonderful that you care to hear about my processes, and I am honored to be in your life. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.